You are listening to Third House Podcast, Astrology, Witchcraft, Creativity, and Life, with your host, Brittany Pastuhov, an astrologer and life coach specializing in confidence for women. Welcome to Third House Podcast. This is our lunar cycle forecast for the Pisces new moon, March 18th, 2026 through April 17th, 2026. Let's get into it. Here we are in Mercury retrograde in Pisces. We are still in Pisces season, and we have our new moon in Pisces, which I'll get to. A lot of Aries going on here, especially the Neptune-Saturn conjunction, which is still happening, and then Venus and Chiron also in Aries. So that's where we are. Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus is in Taurus, and Jupiter is in Cancer, as they were. Eclipse season is ending, and we have direct motion energy. So we're coming on the spring equinox, March 20th. This is a time of new beginnings and action. Finally, this Pisces season has felt long to me. The Mercury retrograde has felt long, but I think the way time feels when things feel like it's been a long time, it's because a lot of things have happened. A lot of things have happened for me and my family in the past month, and so it's felt like a really long winter, really long Pisces season. And now we're about to have the exalted sun in Aries in this time of new beginnings. We're going to go from a stellium in Pisces to a stellium in Aries, so continuing with the theme in 2026 and really the 2020s of endings and new beginnings. But 2026 has more kind of beginning energy, getting started energy than some of the past years, which feels great, I think, for a lot of people. So we're going to have a lot of planets in Aries this Aries season, Mars in Aries, new moon in Aries with a lot of planets there. And from Aries to Aquarius, we have a sextile, so a lot of planets making a sextile aspect to Pluto in Aquarius, kind of following the cycle from when a lot of planets made conjunctions with Pluto in Aquarius earlier this year to now the sextile from Aries, kind of a friendly nod to what's ending, but also our collective power. And we'll have a full moon in Libra, and it's the final lunar cycle before Uranus goes into Gemini, which will be April 25th of this year. So last lunar cycle of Uranus in Taurus, if that has been a particularly rough transit or like specific transit for you, as you have Taurus rising or your Taurus sun or Taurus moon, or another placement since May of 2018, you may be celebrating when Uranus goes into Gemini. And for the Geminis and Gemini placements, it's going to be a really interesting time full of awakening, inspiration, and change. The Tauruses can tell you all about it. So let's look at our new moon for March 18th. This is the chart here. Pretty much what we're looking at, since I'm recording it like kind of right after the new moon has just happened. This new moon is sextile Uranus in Taurus. It's making an out-of-sign conjunction to Neptune in Aries and Saturn in Aries, because it's in such late degrees of Pisces at 28 Pisces. And of course, ruled traditionally by Jupiter in Cancer. Modern rule would be Neptune in Aries, but I usually go with the traditional rulers. So Jupiter ruled Pisces new moon, and Jupiter is exalted here, so very powerful. This is lovely for dreaming big change on the threshold of the spring equinox. So this new moon and the equinox on March 20th, like this little portal of time, are perfect for real new beginnings, for taking action on what started to change at maybe the Lunar New Year in February or the Capricorn season New Year in January. So dream and envision, plan for action at this time. You probably already have been as you're looking forward to spring. Anything is possible here. I would daydream and set intentions with this new moon on tonight, the 18th, the 19th, and then start the new thing symbolically or with any kind of beginning action on the afternoon or evening of March 20th, which is the spring equinox, because the sun enters Aries in the morning of the 20th at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time, and then Mercury stations direct at 3:32 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is a Friday afternoon and evening, but even a little symbolic action for new beginnings is ideal for an Aries ingress, whether it's like just writing something down or saying I'm beginning this or just taking the very first little step on something. This is the astrological new year, the Aries ingress when the sun moves into Aries. In astrology, we get New Year's all the time. We get the January 1st Gregorian New Year and Capricorn season that we can choose to participate in or not. But either way, as astrologers, we know that people are looking at their horoscopes and looking for things by the month, by the year, what's 2026 going to bring. We have the new moon in late January or February for Chinese Lunar New Year. This year it was an eclipse in February in Aquarius. And then we also have the spring equinox, and this is considered the astrological new year. This is when the sun enters Aries and you have your solar return. So any new moon, transit, or election that you want to mark as a time to start new things is a good one if you feel like starting. The Aries energy is particularly good for really getting going, getting outside, starting things, shaking off kind of the gloom and darkness of winter if you feel that way, and feeling fresh starts, okay? Let's see. The spring equinox, like the fall equinox, is a day of balance. It's got equal darkness and light. And in spring, we have the light increasing. So we're looking forward to longer days from here. The sun is in its exaltation in Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac, the sign of pioneering, beginnings, youth, adventure, the individual, action. There is great joy in being active in this season and kind of waking up, starting new things, as the sun is the luminary of happiness, clarity, and enjoyment. So what do you enjoy? What do you want to do with this energy? And then also that afternoon, Mercury stations direct at 8 degrees of Pisces on the 20th. I'll go to the, no, I want just one chart at a time, current transit. I will go to the 20th, so you have the sun moving into Aries, and then Mercury stations direct at 8 degrees of Pisces on that afternoon, giving us more forward momentum with communication, with administrative activities, technology. Mercury is still in Pisces, so we can still emphasize communication with empathy and feeling and creativity, but we get the direct motion now. So moving forward out of this kind of like time warp or time loop that Mercury retrograde can feel like, especially in Pisces. Mars is in Pisces as well, and trine Jupiter in Cancer on the 21st. So we have Mars trine Jupiter here with this blue triangle. With this aspect, there's an opportunity for collective action in the service of care. Mars, like any planet, is not always like bad or behaving badly. Often we can alchemize that interpretation to work with Mars as a planet of action and protection. What needs to be protected with this friendly trine between Mars and Jupiter? Where can protection be amplified? It's a good day for some protection magic as you start your new seeds of spring, whether they're literal or metaphorical this weekend. The sun meets Neptune at 1 degree of Aries, going on 2 degrees, March 22nd. Sorry, it's 1.5 degrees of Aries. So this year, our astrological new year is colored by Neptune. So it makes that kind of like bright Aries red into a more diffuse kind of foggy dark pink. Like if you would picture red and pink gels over theater lighting on a fog machine, we've got a kind of mystical start to this new beginning. Plus Saturn is also here, which the sun is applying to that conjunction as well. So we have to consider both, and Saturn makes things more serious. Whatever you begin now from the new moon and spring equinox through about the week following is important. And there may be an ending too that you're dealing with, as all new beginnings have those associated with them. This is not to put you in decision paralysis to try to make the best important decision and thereby do nothing, but just to say, where is Aries in your chart? Because the house it's in will show you something about your direction. If it's in the 6th house, if you're a Scorpio rising, there may be an important trajectory to start on for your health. In the 10th, for a Cancer rising, an important career decision. In the 7th, with Libra rising, an important decision about a relationship. So you try to find and clarify with find clarity with the exalted sun, and watch out for decisions that are clouded by this Neptune. That could be clouded by overinflated ego and other kind of pitfalls of an exalted sun in Aries, which is joyous, but also can sometimes trip on their own ego. So, things are a little more cloudy than usual on this spring equinox, but in some ways, clouds and dreaming sort of make it all that much more mystical, and things are very possible. It's just that what you are doing is whatever decisions that you make could be very important and long term with Saturn there as well. And it'll be interesting to see how people handle this intense Aries energy with Neptune and Saturn there this season. Okay, on the 25th, we have things continuing to move through Aries, and on the 25th, we have the sun making a sextile to Pluto, which is a small aspect, but worth mentioning because on January 21st, we had our Sun-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius when the sun was here in Aquarius on Pluto. And I said there's a lot of contrast with this aspect. Shadow makes it possible to see the light, illuminating the shadow side of society in general. And on January 20th, as that aspect was applying, one example of many things that were happening, the UN released their report stating that the planet has entered an era of global water bankruptcy, meaning that what was previously normal for our water is no longer attainable for many on Earth, and they were calling for a structured recovery plan to help us maintain what is left of our fresh water and rebuild as we can, but saying, we'll never be able to get it back to what it was, which is not new information, right? We all know about the climate crisis. We all know about water scarcity. Of course, the burden disproportionately falls on Indigenous and low-income peoples. This may not seem so Aquarian being water, since Aquarius is an air sign, but one reading of the constellation of Aquarius is Ganymede pouring water from the heavens onto Earth. And it also has a lot to do with systems, social systems. I think with Pluto and Aquarius, anything that affects all of us, all of society, the infrastructure of society does apply, especially when it comes to endings or changes and transformations related to resources. And by the way, AI data centers are gobbling up fresh water at an alarming rate to cool servers. So if you want a really easy way to protect water right now, just avoid using generative AI and turn it off as much as possible in your searches and your app settings, because they're trying to bake it into everything and make us use it. And also, you don't have to use it. You can use your brain. Gen AI really just isn't very good at a lot of things. And it's using all the water. So if you didn't know, now you do. Okay, not to be a total bummer, but now that we're at the sextile aspect of the cycle and the sun is stronger in Aries, it's exalted now, right? It was in Aquarius when it was on Pluto, and Pluto was kind of overshadowing. Now the sun is exalted. What echoes will we hear of that shadowy contrast? What else will be illuminated? We really are living through a time of great endings, but many people in history have thought that at the time that they lived. And I believe that we will come up with the next way of living, the next phase, one that may look futuristic to us now, but is more in harmony with the needs of the people and our shared life and resources on Earth. So we're grieving the endings and accepting them and making way for new projects at the same time, because we need to envision a good future and we need fresh ideas about it. So I don't think everything's over. I'm not trying to be a huge downer, but I thought that was an interesting historical event on January 20th as that conjunction was applying. And of course, a lot of things happened in January as a lot of things continue to happen in the world. But I'd be interested to see what that sextile brings up. And then as everything kind of entering Aries makes a sextile to Pluto as well, we've had the Neptune and Saturn are really still in sextile to Pluto as well, in great conversation with what is being torn down and what is being built up here, especially in terms of things like infrastructure, but also the beliefs behind it. What do we believe is possible in our future? What do we believe is important for us as we enter kind of this new era? On the 26th, Venus meets Chiron in Aries. So Chiron in Aries, I talked a lot about courage and authenticity for my clients when this transit started in 2018. And I still do think it has been quite a growth area for a lot of us. With Venus in Aries, we see the feminine in combat, the boxer, the fighter, the scrappy one who looks out for herself. She's brave, she's bold, she's not afraid to try something new, she's not afraid to stand up for herself. With Chiron here, there's some healing for this warrior archetype of the feminine. The feminine can be active too, that the feminine can also be very protective and very brave as well. Saturn sextile Pluto on the 28th. I've also seen like a lot of, I don't know if it's just my algorithm, but a lot of chainmail. The girlies are making chainmail. They're wearing chainmail, which feels very appropriate in this era. We're dressing for it. Medieval battle. Okay. March 28th. As we saw the Sun sextile Pluto, now we're seeing Saturn. Like, it is slower to get there, but has been making this aligned aspect. Again, we have to accept endings in order for the new beginnings to come. So on a personal level, what's ending for you with Pluto and Aquarius? What's rising out of the ashes? There's something important being forged here, a tool of some kind to take with you. And also like paying attention to what's being the beliefs and real structures that are being transformed or destroyed or built at this moment. As Pluto in Aquarius really is kind of that symbol of transforming society for the full 20 years that it's here through 2044. March 30th, so anytime anything makes an aspect to Pluto in Aquarius, it's important, especially when it's Saturn or another outer planet. March 30th, Venus enters Taurus. This is lovely. So Venus leaves Aries for Taurus, and Venus rules Taurus. So it's great for springtime. Taurus is very much the archetypal earth sign, stable, sustainable, prosperous, sensual. Taurus is all about the pleasures of heaven on earth, big and small. So with Venus's blessing here, our seedling projects root and begin to grow. And if you really need some sunlight and awakening and to shake off some of the darkness of winter, Venus and the Sun are both really lovely to petition and work with at this time during this cycle for more harmony, for more beauty, for more time in nature perhaps, or just more light in your life and clarity. The full moon on April 1st is in Libra. I'm going to go to the actual full moon chart here. Okay, April 1st at 12 degrees of Libra. This is squaring Jupiter in Cancer and opposite Saturn in Aries. So making kind of a T-square with these cardinal planets, Saturn and Jupiter. Anytime Saturn and Jupiter get involved, it's really like kind of Jupiter is stronger in this case, being exalted and direct again. It's about how we get things done, whether it requires more discipline or more expansion and faith and belief. Really anything, any big thing you're trying to accomplish will require both, Saturn being the discipline and Jupiter being the expansion and belief, but there's some kind of doubt to overcome here with this full moon. It's a really beautiful full moon though. On April 1st, a time of new beginnings, April Fool's Day, I think of the Fool card leaping off that cliff into the air with such trust. There could be another person you have to trust as you take action, knowing that they have your back, believing they're in it with you. The square this moon makes to Jupiter presents a positive challenge, which I would read as an opportunity. Sometimes the scariest moments in life are the ones where you accept an opportunity that is presented to you by another person. It could be exactly what you've been dreaming of, but confronting the reality and actually taking the opportunity, this invitation to expand and grow, can be a big test in life. Most people are afraid of change and will self-sabotage into keeping things the same, and may not realize it's self-sabotage, even when it's obvious what they should do. So don't be like that. Recognize your own impulses to self-sabotage and overcome them. If the opportunity is right for you and it's what you've been hoping for, take it. It will challenge you, but that's okay. Venus rules this full moon, making it wonderful for relationships and love, beauty, glamour, for saying yes or saying no, and thereby opening a portal to your next level. Everything requires discipline and faith. You have to use your own discernment to see how this applies to your own life, or how you might want to apply your magic to it. But it's a lovely full moon, perhaps with some opportunities for some of you. Okay, oops, going back to just one chart about the transits in April 3rd. Okay, Mercury trine Jupiter, April 3rd. Mercury's in Pisces, but direct again. Trine Jupiter in Cancer. This is the third pass of this transit. We had it on March 9th when Mercury was retrograde, and on February 16th. At those times I said, they're working for peace and protection. Two things we haven't seen a lot reflected necessarily in the media, but that are definitely happening in the world and in your local communities and in your life. Something on those themes, something related to water rights, water scarcity, and sacredness could be revealed. As I said in the January forecast, if 2026 echoes 2016, let it be an echo of peace and a sign of the resistance to fascism, creating a better world in spite of or because of what is happening politically. Personally, a beautiful day for creative acts and acts of protection or kindness, April 3rd. We also have Venus square Pluto on the same day. Okay, so Venus squaring Pluto here, a tense aspect. The moon's also joining to make it a whole T-square, moon and Scorpio waxing. So Venus standoff with Pluto in these fixed signs, that shows me the power of beauty, pleasure, and joy in heavy times. I have spoken about deaths and endings and new beginnings for the whole world with my astrology forecasts in our current moment. And whimsy is so much more powerful than it seems. Acts of pleasure and joy when the people in power want you to be quiet and put your head down and get depressed are so potent. Don't fall for it. Don't feel incapable of contributing. Don't feel like you're all alone or you're the only one who feels this way. There is so much power in finding your joy despite all of the madness, because it connects you with yourself. It connects you with the earth. It connects you potentially with other people who are experiencing the same joy. Together, when we feel our magic and our power, when we create spaces of beauty in a landscape that is like consistently more and more full of beige sameness, we get stronger, right? We remember. So that's April 3rd. We've got two aspects that really speak to me of peace and protection and the power of finding joy and going deep to that well within yourself and your community of what is good and how we protect it. The Sun squared Jupiter, April 5th, continues these aspects. So the Sun squaring Jupiter, Sun and Jupiter, both generally good, even if it is a square, okay? So it's the importance of seizing the moment. It's a cardinal square, so action. Jupiter's only in Cancer for a couple more months until June 30th. So if there's something that you wanted to bring to life during this time, do it. Don't wait for a perfect moment. There's not going to be a perfect moment. Just take a chance on what you believe to be true and what you desire to grow before Jupiter enters Leo, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so very powerful at the moment. Great to take advantage of this now that Jupiter is direct until June 30th in Cancer. April 8th, Mars at 29 degrees of Pisces, just about to leave Pisces, sextile Uranus at 29 Taurus. So Mars in alignment with Uranus does bring surprises, though not necessarily as severe as conjunctions, squares, or oppositions between these two. And we do have just a few weeks here until Uranus leaves Taurus on April 25th and goes into Gemini, which is a transit that will last for the next 7 to 8 years. 7 to 8, not 78. What has changed for you since May of 2018? Where have you innovated? Where have you had to navigate surprises or shocks to your system? We've all navigated shocks to the system with Uranus and Taurus, but how have things shown up for you as an awakening in your life? Last minute changes can still happen during this month, this lunar cycle, so buckle up if you have important placements or planets in Taurus. this is the last of it. This is the last few weeks. April 9th, Mars enters Aries. Okay, we have Mars there at 0 Aries, obviously conjunct Neptune and right away, and then Saturn. Mars rules Aries. Originally, I've spoken about Mars many times. This planet represented the earth in agriculture. It was seed planting, shoots forcing their way through the hard ground to become crocuses. Like, it's not all war and bloodshed, but the non-toxic version of Mars is the one who like grows in harsh conditions, right? The one who protects and defends from harm and creates conditions for new growth to happen, even when everything is not perfect or it's still the very beginning, the hard, cold earth. Mars in Aries gives us energy for action, amplifies our new beginning energy, and calls us to assertively protect where it's needed. If you need to see an example of this kind of energy, watch any like new toddler or like kitten or puppy like playing, like the kind of energy that just doesn't stop. That's like Aries energy, Mars and Aries energy. Mars meets Neptune right away, but officially on April 13th is when that conjunction becomes exact. Okay, April 13th, it will be exact at 2.39 Aries. So we have a major stellium in Aries growing here now by mid-April. So there's a dream to protect with this Neptune and Mars here, a kind of new thing that you may be taking action on, but that it's not physically manifest yet or obvious to other people yet. So it's not the time yet to win awards and accolades for it, right? But it's in the beginning kind of nebulous stages where maybe you don't even know quite what it will become yet. Continue to grow that and take action on it, even if it's still barely more than a dream right now. Don't be deceived by the lack of a physical manifestation of a finished product if you're sure this is the right thing for you. And also don't be so delulu, of course, that you get yourself in trouble, but a little dose of delulu doesn't hurt when you're dreaming big and trying to take action on something that isn't yet formed. You have to have a little bit of faith in yourself. And again, the decisions you make right now with Saturn and Aries here as well are important, and there can be challenges and there can be doubts around it. So having some faith in yourself and your own kind of genius, as the exalted sun in Aries would say, like, then that will help you through. That will help you take action on it. Also on April 13th, we have Venus sextile Jupiter here from Taurus. That's a friendly aspect. So that adds some fun, magic, love, and care to this day that is kind of like for growing new things, right? Like watering your flowers, giving yourself your flowers, maybe even before other people can see what you've actually created. On the 14th, we have Mercury sextile Uranus. Okay, so we've got Mercury at the very last degree, 29 degrees of Pisces, and Uranus at the very last degree of Taurus. This is a day when you might find creative inspiration at your fingertips, surprising ideas coming through the collective, or tricky tricks from the unpredictable outer planet about to leave a fixed sign. Uranus isn't very comfortable in a fixed sign, will move much more seamlessly and faster in Gemini, for better or worse. But like that Uranus and Taurus energy of like kind of getting fixed notions and fixed actions that are zany and weird, like QAnon, and like all the things that have happened since 2018 and 2016 for that matter. I'm not attributing all of them to Uranus and Taurus, but that fixed Uranian energy is very strange, and when it gets into Gemini, I think it's still strange. It's still Uranus, but I feel things will flow more with more compatibility between Uranus and Gemini than with Uranus and Taurus. So last sextile from Mercury, potentially creative ideas or developments, communications perhaps. Then Mercury enters Aries, same day, April 14th. We've got Mercury in Aries here, and the planet of communication in the sign of originality gives us all a creative boost. Mercury in Aries offers opportunities for entrepreneurial commerce, quick wit, fresh ideas, feeling young again. You might also feel like sparring with others, but just remember that the warrior archetype is one focused most on defense, not usually attack. And wise warriors know when to hold their tongue and when to speak. Okay, April 16th, the sun meets Chiron. The sun illuminates where we have wounds around individuality, authenticity, the masculine side, and the sense of that part of ourself that takes action and protects and goes out into the world and does the things. We all have a very well-developed masculine side most of the time, although we also have a lot of problems in our culture with toxic masculinity. But in a patriarchal culture, the masculine is sort of more revered. So with those terms being very flawed, what I mean is we all have a very well-developed side that has structure and action at the heart of it. But Chiron is kind of revealing the wounds and some of the toxicity there on April 16th, and perhaps an opportunity for healing. Again, I also have talked a lot about this as courage and authenticity. So for you personally, it might be like an opportunity to be authentic, which also feels scary. And there's some healing there as well. Mars sextile Pluto from Aries. This is an aspect that suggests some protection is needed in the service of humanity, that your agency matters. Aries is the individual. We have a ton of planets stacked up. You can see all of them on the YouTube video stacked up here in Aries. Your agency matters. The age of the plutocrat with Pluto and Capricorn is over for now, and the powers that be are trying to create the age of the technocrat with Pluto and Aquarius. We have to say no to that. Refuse the overreach of big tech. Whether you're divesting from Amazon, refusing surveillance, and fighting for privacy measures, calling for antitrust, this is just one example of the kinds of things that can come up with aspects to Pluto and Aquarius these days, but you do have agency when it comes to large-scale change and power structures of this transformation. You are not a passive participant in this. This is very much like Pluto and Aquarius, a time of the people's changes to society, the common peoples coming together and making changes, and the infrastructure and the way resources are distributed can change as a result. So don't think that it is pre-written. It is not. Aries here is the agency of the individual in some ways. Mercury conjunct Neptune at 2 degrees of Aries on the 16th as well. So we have Mercury-Neptune conjunction. You know, Mercury always has something to say about kind of the larger planet or aspect that's happening. So learning something about what Neptune and Aries means for you, what that Neptune-Saturn conjunction means for you. Of course, Mars is there too. So like stelliums can get very loud because you have a lot of different actors all talking at once, basically, and fusing their energies together. Mercury-Neptune creates opportunities for dreaming as long as we keep one foot on the ground. There's wonderful creativity and magic to that aspect, especially in Aries, of ideas being born. And then the next new moon is in Aries on the 17th. Look at the chart for that. Okay, at 27 degrees of Aries, conjunct Chiron. Very closely conjunct Chiron, ruled by Mars, which is also in Aries. And in this whole big giant stellium in Aries where we have a ton of planets there. Also, Venus is coming into applying to a conjunction with Uranus at that point in Taurus. And we've still got that Mars sextile Pluto aspect separating. So the new moon, if you don't have it together by the spring equinox, don't worry. There is always another astrological window of time when it comes to astrology. So April 17th might be your time. The new moon in Aries is conjunct Chiron, making this moon for intentions related to healing, among other possibilities. Healing, yes, but not necessarily the gentle kind. And healing is rarely a gentle process anyway. Mars, the ruler of this moon, is at full strength in Aries. We've got Neptune, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Chiron, the Sun, and of course the new moon all packed together in this sign. That is a cardinal sign of initiation that is jam-packed with energy. If you're uncomfortable because it's time to begin something new, you're not alone. This Aries season is really pushing us to go fast. Okay, so that's your forecast for the lunar cycle from our Pisces new moon, March 18th, to the full moon on April 1st and the new moon on in Aries on April 17th. So March 18th to April 17th, we're moving from this wonky Mercury retrograde in Pisces eclipse season energy to Aries energy, spring equinox, time for new beginnings, time for change, time for action. Okay. You've spent a lot of time kind of like stopping and starting maybe in January and February because of the eclipse season, because of the energies. Astrology doesn't necessarily align with the 2026 calendar. This is your astrological new year. This is the lunar cycle where you really can actually step out and awaken something, start something new. So good luck to you all with it. Aries season and spring equinox are a wonderful time to get an astrology reading for your next 6 months or so, and do it at each equinox. It's a lovely, like, balanced time to get some information about what's ahead for you, or a natal chart reading, and see what the stars have to say about you personally, that you could apply some of these ideas to your own actual life. And I'm here for that if you want to get an astrology reading. And I will see you in my emails and on Instagram. I love hearing from my people. Thank you so much for listening. Talk soon.